Okay, let's talk about the syntax of TFL. TFL is made up of three main groups of symbols. First, we have capital letters that represent sentences. So for example, A, B, C, these capital letters represent sentences. They also may be subscripted. So for example, J subscript 5 or F subscript 199 also counts as a capital letter that represents a sentence. Then secondly, we have the so-called Boolean connectives. I'm going to talk more about those in just a second. For now, let's just observe that we have 5 of them: the negation sign, conjunction sign, disjunction sign, the conditional, and the biconditional. And finally, we have brackets, the opening bracket and the closing bracket. Those are the three groups of symbols that are part of TFL. Now, what are the Boolean connectives? The Boolean connectives are sentential connectives that allow you to construct more complex sentences out of simple sentences. The negation symbol, which is this little bar, symbolizes the English word not. The conjunction symbol, which is this upside down V, symbolizes the English word and. The disjunction symbol, which is basically a V sign, symbolizes the English word or. The conditional, rightward pointing arrow, symbolizes the English if then. And the biconditional, which is an arrow pointing in both directions, symbolizes the English if and only if. Given this stock of symbols, TFL contains a clear and explicit definition of what counts as a TFL sentence. This definition proceeds in 7 steps. First, we are stipulating that every sentence letter is a sentence. Secondly, if A is a sentence, then the result of prefixing A with a negation operator is also a sentence. Third, if both A and B are sentences, then the result of conjoining A and B by means of the conjunction symbol is also a sentence. Fourth, if A and B are sentences, then the result of disjoining A and B by means of the disjunction symbol is also a sentence. Fifth, if A and B are sentences, then the conditional A arrow B is a sentence. Sixth, if A and B are sentences, then the biconditional A if and only if B is a sentence. And the 7th and final step in our definition is the so-called that's all clause, according to which nothing else is a sentence. Now, the definition that we just looked at is a so-called inductive definition. An inductive definition always has 3 parts. First, we have the base case that defines a certain basic stock of whatever we are defining. In our case, the base case is the first clause in our definition, according to which every sentence letter is a sentence. Then secondly, we have the so-called inductive step that tells us how we can construct new sentences out of our basic sentences that were defined in the first step. And in our case, the inductive step consists of clauses 2 to 6 in our definition of a TFL sentence. And then finally, we have the that's all clause. In our case, that's clause 7, according to which only things defined in step 1 to 6 are sentences and nothing else is a sentence. We are going to see a few more inductive definitions in the course of our class and our time together. So it's important to just have a general understanding of what an inductive definition is. Now, given the inductive definition of a TFL sentence, you can think of every TFL sentence as constructed in a stepwise process. So for example, if you think about the disjunction A or B and C, you can think of this disjunction as constructed in in two steps. We first conjoined the sentence letters B and C to form the conjunction B and C. And we then disjoined the sentence letter A and the conjunction B and C to form the disjunction A or B and C. The main connective of a sentence is the connective that was introduced last in this stepwise process. So in our previous example, the disjunction symbol is the main connective of the sentence, since we first introduced the conjunction symbol and then in the second and last step introduced the disjunction symbol. And the scope of a connective is the subsentence for which that connective is the main logical operator. So for example, the scope of the conjunction symbol are the two sentence letters B and C, and the scope of the disjunction symbol are the sentence letter A on the one side and the conjunction B and C on the other side. Now, strictly speaking, when you just have the three symbols A conjunction B, this sequence of symbols is not a sentence. If you look carefully at our definition of what counts as a TFL sentence, you will observe that only bracket A conjunction B bracket is a sentence. But logicians often are just a tiny little bit sloppy, so they often drop the outermost brackets. And we will adopt this convention in this class. You can drop the outermost brackets, even though that, strictly speaking, goes against the TFL definition of a sentence. And we are also using a second bracketing convention according to which you can use the square brackets in place of the round brackets if this aids readability. So strictly speaking, the square brackets are not part of TFL, but you can use them if it helps you to represent the structure of the sentence that you are looking at more clearly. Okay, next we are going to go on to talk about the semantics of TFL.